Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Jackson Show. I'm your host, Jackson Solomon. And today, we're going to be talking about three important things. One, my weekly schedule. Two, we've got some football updates. And three, college football week one starts tonight. And I'm going to give you some of my predictions. But before that, I do want to say I'm using a different microphone today. So if it sounds a little different, that is one of the reasons why. Also, my camera on my computer stopped working. I don't know why. I'm going to have to get that checked out. So hopefully over the course of the season, maybe, hopefully I can get this camera working again so that you guys can see my face. So without further ado, I'm just going to get straight into it, talking about the weekly schedule for the Jackson Show. And it's usually goes like this traditionally on a week. Let's say you have college football on Friday, Saturday, and you have the NFL Thursday, Sunday, Monday. I will record on Tuesday a weekend recap of all those games from the week before. I'll give you my prediction for Thursday Night Football. And then Friday is when I give you my predictions for the rest of the weekend. So let's say you have Ohio State, Penn State on Saturday. And the Lions are playing the Chiefs on Sunday. I will give you my predictions for both of those games. And the Tuesday, I'm going to recap both of those games. That is kind of how the show is going to work. Obviously, I did an episode earlier on in the summer, and it didn't really work like that. I only posted once that week, and it was my top 25. So, but yes, probably going to continue to do the top 25 weekly. Probably going to do some NFL power rankings as well. Some fantasy football players to watch. I don't have that lined up for this week's show, although a lot of drafts are going on right now. I would consider this fantasy football draft week. I won't be doing any fantasy football this year, but I will be, kind of researching stuff and trying to give, some updates out there, so to put some updates out there. And I just want to be that one reliable source that you can go to and say, ESPN, they didn't really give me it straightforward, but Jackson from the Jackson Show, he definitely did that. And that's the kind of person I want to be, the reliable guy. I want to be the person that you can trust, gave you the right information. And I feel like, with this new season, every episode, you're going to have some sort of NFL update. I feel like I'm going to do my best to try and do that for the fan, for you. So go ahead, show your support, hit the like button, subscribe, leave a comment. Already have people who want to come on the show and want to be guests, and that's great. So hopefully we'll get some interviews lined up along this season as well. In which case, if we do have an interview, it'd probably have to be on a Monday or a Wednesday, depending on my schedule and their schedule. And then we'll have the predictions and the recap as well in that week. So 3 episodes per week, say there's an interview. But yeah. So, yeah. So let's get into some football updates. Let's not. We're going to start with, I think, the biggest news of the week. I'm sure many people have heard about this. And I'm sure many people are excited about this. Kelsey and Swift got engaged. So happy for the two of them. They found that one person in life that they want to spend the rest of their life with. And although I'm not the biggest Kelsey or Swift fan, I do want to congratulate them because They seem like they support each other very much. I remember talking about the Super Bowl, how Swift had to fly all the way across the country to get to New Orleans to watch the Super Bowl, and how she's performing at Tight End U and stuff, and how Travis is going to her concerts, and how she's on the Eras tour, and she's on his podcast. It's honestly, I think it's true love because they're supporting each other, and that's kind of the relationship that you want to have with another person. So, congratulations, Travis and Taylor. Although I do want to know who's taking whose last name. I want to know that. Let's get into some actual NFL news, though. Starting with holdouts, I have 4 names: Cam Hayward, Terry McLaurin, Micah Parsons, Trey Hendrickson. I'm going to start with Micah Parsons. Micah Parsons is still holding out. He's still requesting a trade, although they call it holding in. It's when you show up to camp and don't practice. I'm sure, many people have heard about that. He's still requesting the trade. He still wants to be traded. He will not suit up for the Cowboys until he's traded. Although head coach of the Dallas Cowboys, Brian Schottenheimer, disagrees. He believes that Parsons will suit up. You've got a week and a couple of days next week to get this thing sorted out. But I have not seen Parsons suit up for the Cowboys. And I remember how I said in my previous episode that he will re-sign with Dallas. With the season being so close, I don't think he will. I think he's moving on from the Cowboys. Probably gonna... There's a lot of rumors going around. The rumor is that he's probably going to go to the Packers. I don't believe that. I want him to be a Charger because we need an edge to play alongside Khalil Mack. But we do have Bud Dupree, so we might be good in that front. Also, some people want him on the Lions, which I don't think is a good idea because you have Aiden Hutchinson and Micah Parsons. And the biggest issue with Parsons right now is he wants to be paid. His rookie deal is up. And so I think that when you pay all your players internally, it makes it hard to make a trade for a player that's so expensive, Mike Parsons. And even though he doesn't want to reset the market, he just wanted to be a Dallas Cowboy. Now he's not playing for the Dallas Cowboys. So he probably does want to get top tier money. But I don't know. I think Micah Parsons will not be a Dallas Cowboy. So I completely 100% disagree with whatever Brian Schottenheimer is saying. I do not think Mike Parsons will be a Dallas Cowboy by the time week 1 rolls around. I don't think he'll suit up for the Cowboys at all this year. I'd be surprised if he didn't, but I don't think he will. Trey Hendrickson, the other defensive player that I'm going to talk about today, he received a raise of $16 million. So he's going to be earning $30 million for this year, and he's still going to be a free agent next year. And I think that was kind of a smart move. Get paid a little extra this season, and then go into free agency next season. Although I do think he's a 31-year-old, so he's probably not going to get the money or the contract that he wants, but he's moving on to a different team. And honestly, if you're a Bengals fan, you want him to stay, but the Bengals' money's just caught up in Burrow, Higgins, and Chase that it's so hard to move on to another player or try to pay another player because your money's tied up in your 3 superstars. And although I do think we were all getting really tired of hearing about T. Higgins every offseason, I think the Trey Hendricks situation has been way worse. But I am glad they drafted Shamar Stewart because they're going to need him to play that edge position so that they can potentially replace Trey Hendrickson down the road. Next name on this list, I got Cam Hayward. Apparently, Cam Hayward is holding in. I did not know this, although he does have a podcast. So I've been watching a little bit of Cam Hayward's podcast, but he's not playing football right now. He wants a new deal. That's all I'm going to say about the Cam Hayward situation, although I will say he's a veteran, and I think he deserves to be paid. And although the maybe you're a little hesitant because he's up there in age and he could retire at any point. So you've got to confirm that with him when you bring him in and you try to get him to sign the contract. But TJ Watt, and he can't do everything on this defense by himself. Slay, Porter Jr., and Jalen Ramsey is a great secondary, but you play in a division with Lamar Jackson, and if you can't get to Lamar Jackson, you know what's going to happen, right? And so these guys on the back end, they're not going to be very successful if you can't get to the quarterback. And without Cam Hayward, who's one of the most dominant D tackles in NFL history, I'll say it, in NFL history, you're going to, you're going to need him because TJ Watt can't get to the quarterback by himself, even though TJ Watt is a really good football player. Next up is Scary Terry. He signed a 3-year, $96 million extension, and he will play week 1 versus the Giants. I've said it before, and I'll say it again. You didn't really need Scary Terry, but it's good to have him locked up and bring him back. This is the 3rd time we've talked about Terry McLaurin getting an extension with the Commanders. And in 3 years, I'm sure we will all be sick and tired of hearing about it again. So keep that in mind. He got a $30 million signing bonus, so you can look up the guaranteed money. I haven't. I just, know his signing bonus. Very expensive player. He's not expensive like Deebo Samuel, who, is up there in age. But Terry McLaurin is also 30. So anyway, when he hits the receiving market, he probably is going to get paid like a guy like Christian Kirk did at the end of his contract with the Arizona Cardinals. The only problem is, two problems. Production. And 3, probably not going to get that long-term deal. So I'm glad the Commander snatched him up. He's going to get paid. So that'll wrap up the hold-in news, camp news. We have some injury news coming up next. I'm going to start with the good news first. Well, actually, majority of people like bad news first. I like to hear the bad news first and then be uplifted by the good news. So I'll save the good news for last. We'll start with the bad news. Joe Mixon is expected to miss 4 weeks of the NFL season. So you wanna get a running back, get Nick Chubb. Although I did not have faith in Nick Chubb because I believed he would split touches with Joe Mixon, and Joe Mixon would be their primary back. Mixon's going to miss the first couple of weeks of the season, so you might want to pick up Nick Chubb or a different back in your fantasy league if you got Joe Mixon. Jason Sanders, this is a Dolphins kicker. He's going to miss the first month of the season with a hip injury. Dolphins, I do not know if the Dolphins signed a kicker between now and when I made the script. So if they have, leave a comment down below giving me like an update. But Jason Sanders, if you have Jason Sanders, you're going to need a different kicker. Also, Matt Stafford. Remember the back issue that Stafford had? Practiced a couple of weeks ago. He's good to go. McVay confirmed it for week 1. The only thing that concerns me really is that they said that he's not good forever. Like he's not going to play the entire season, but he's good for week 1. I don't know when the Rams bye week is, but I hope it's early so Stafford can rest up. Because if it's not, you're in trouble if you're the Rams or you have Matthew Stafford in fantasy football this year. So, yeah. But I think it's good news. I didn't really have that much faith, although I probably should have, in Jimmy G. I just think this offense is built for Matt Stafford. So, Jimmy, I don't believe in his ability to get the ball to his Devontae Adams or Puka Nacua. I believe in Stafford's ability to do that, though, and I think he will. And like I said, he's not confirmed for the season. How does that affect this division? Well, I have the Niners winning the West. It probably changes the effects on some of these games. Kind of how how I have the division finishing out, if Stafford doesn't go the full 162, that'll probably change. Or not 162, if he doesn't play the full 17-game season. So my expectations will probably change. Probably will change for the Rams this year. And last starting quarterback news, you got Spencer Rattler. He's going to be the starting quarterback for the Saints, which kind of numbs it down. The quarterback competitions for the year, there weren't many in the NFL this season. There was one in Indianapolis. We all heard how that got sorted out. There's a controversy, not a competition, a controversy in New York. There was another controversy in Dallas, but that got shut down because of how Joe Milton played in the preseason. If there was a competition in LA, it probably would have been for QB2. No competition in a lot of teams didn't really have an open competition, but the Saints were one. They confirmed their starting quarterback, Spencer Rattler. What can I say? Okay. I believe 100% that Tyler Shough is the quarterback of the future for the New Orleans Saints. And I can say this because this is a quarterback that Kellen Moore drafted, offensive-minded coach drafts an offensive player. I expect that offensive player to be good, and I expect that offensive player to be the head coach's guy. Spencer Rattler, his contract is up in a couple of years. Shough has more years on his deal, being a third-round pick than Rattler did. I think Rattler was either a late-round draft pick or was undrafted. So Shough, in my opinion, probably gets the edge. Probably does get that edge over a guy like Tyler Shough. Or Shough probably gets that advantage over Rattler because he was a higher overall pick. Plus, Rattler has more experience than Tyler Shough. He understands that it was, it's brutal playing behind a bad offensive line. I view this as the Jacoby and Drake May situation. You don't want Drake May going out there and playing with a bad offensive line. You want the veteran out there trying to work with the group, try to get him on a better level, like Jacoby Brissett. He's had to deal with bad offensive lines throughout his career, and so I'm sure he's dealt with that more than Drake May has. Drake May being a guy out of North Carolina, just a quarterback who's had a terrific offensive line his entire NFL career. So the same thing applies here. Spencer Rattler didn't play with a great offensive line last year. Tyler Shough at Louisville, offensive line was not perfect, but was better than, in my opinion, was better than what the Saints have right now. But yeah. So let's take a look at some college football news. I saw Wake Forest announced their starting quarterback. I didn't get his name. But Florida, Michigan, and Kentucky all announced starting quarterbacks this week. Also, we have South Carolina's new transfer, Rashul Fajan, eligible to play this week 1 game against Virginia Tech. Also, some news with the Crimson Tide. So let's start off with the starting quarterbacks. Florida announced this week that DJ Lagway is going to start in the first game of the year. He's healthy enough. He's going to play. Michigan announced that the true freshman Bryce Underwood would also start week 1. And Kentucky announced Zach Calzada. I don't know much about Zach Calzada, so I will refrain from talking about Kentucky after this. But all I want to say about Kentucky is Kentucky has got to have a good year, otherwise the hot seat gets really, really hot. Like I'm sitting in the oven type hot. Okay. That's just me in my opinion. That's just what I think of when I think of Kentucky. Kentucky right now is not the best college football program, basketball-wise. Say they're not successful in the March Madness department. Regular season, though, they're really good. But the point I'm trying to make is Kentucky, this guy has to be really good. He has to get you to 6 or 7 wins. You got to take you to a bowl game. Otherwise, the hot seat gets turned up a lot. All right, now it's time to talk about the big boys. I got both Florida and Michigan inside my top 25 for the year. And, of course, they're ranked very highly in the AP and coaches poll, and for good reason. I think a lot of people are understating how good Michigan can really be. I think the problem is, offensive line should be better than last year, but we don't know yet. Also, Michigan, for as long as I can remember, had that 1-2 punch. Who is the second back? I don't know if it's Jordan Marshall or not. I think, Justice Haynes is a good back. But I don't know if Jordan Marshall's that number 2 guy. I don't know. But we're here to talk about the quarterback position, and that's Bryce Underwood, who's going to start week 1 versus the New Mexico Lobos. I mean, what can I say about Bryce Underwood? This guy's a baller. But I do expect Michigan to run the ball quite a lot. Don't expect them to throw the ball often. But Bryce Underwood, expect him to do good things. The only thing I'm worried about is him staying committed to Michigan. But he's got a 4-year, $10 million NIL deal. So there's a good chance that he's not going anywhere. And that pretty much covers everything I have to say about Michigan. Now with Florida, DJ Lagway's had injury issues. You don't have a good backup quarterback, in my opinion. So I don't know what's going to happen to Florida if DJ Lagway gets injured. I have high expectations for Florida this year. They are incredibly high. But if DJ Lagway is not the starting quarterback, those expectations go down a little bit. It's kind of like the Florida State situation from a couple of years ago, where Florida State, really good football team, a really good defense, but the quarterback gets injured, they're not as good. And that's what the College Football Playoff Committee saw. And that's what we saw in the Orange Bowl when they played Georgia and gave up 70 points. Same thing is true here. DJ Lagway gets injured. This is a completely different football team. So it depends on the health of your quarterback. If I'm the guys on the defense, I'm not messing around with this. I'm not playing around with my quarterback's health. I'm not. This is a legitimate concern. We're being serious about DJ Lagway. We're not messing around with this guy. This guy is the face of the program right now. He's going to go out and do big things. We can't afford to have DJ Lagway get injured. He might be our best chance at beating Georgia this year. He might be our best chance at winning the SEC this year. So he might be our best chance at beating Texas. I have Florida beating Texas this year. It doesn't happen without DJ Lagway, in my opinion. So, Florida, you've got to keep DJ Lagway healthy. I'm glad to see you playing week 1, but you can rest him these first couple of weeks. These weeks, you can beat a team with your backup quarterback by 40 points. The level of competition is not the same between the FBS and the FCS. In case people don't know what the FCS is, it's kind of like the FBS, but with completely different teams, lower schools, stuff like that. Teams don't have as high as a budget. Think of North Dakota State. They're really good, but they're FCS football team. Alabama, Georgia, those are the top dogs. They're in the FBS. That's kind of the difference between the two leagues, basically, I'll call them. Two different levels of competition, two different leagues. And so the bigger schools pay lower schools to come to their campus so that they can beat them. If there are some instances where, we have like a Michigan or Michigan State where they, play a team from the MAC. But, some colleges where you're like, I've never heard of this team before, probably an FCS school. I thought about that with Middle Tennessee State. Turns out they're an FCS. Yeah, or an FBS. Teams like Oregon's playing Montana State. Some football programs play Drake. Those are FCS schools. Those schools are not in the FBS. So they're not in a conference like the Big 12 or the Big 10. They're in the lower pristine. Those are where those teams come from. They come from the FCS. So when you have college football conferences, there's only really 9, 10 if you want to count the Big Pac-12. The rest are FCS schools. So school like Florida A&M, HBCU, but they are a FCS school. Kentucky State, I know some alums, they are an FCS school. That kind of thing. That is the difference between FBS and FCS. It's not the same level of competition either, because when you go out and it's the first Saturday and you have a school like Alabama playing Alabama State, things get ugly. But then you have rare situations where you have a school like, let's say Houston, they're going to Rice. That's a rare situation because those are both two FBS Division I schools playing against each other. So back to the point I was making, you can rest DJ Lagway these first couple of weeks. If you're up by more than 4 touchdowns at halftime, go ahead and rest DJ Lagway because you're going to need him for games against Texas this year, against Georgia this year. You avoid Alabama, but you're going to play Tennessee. So you're going to need DJ Lagway. So you're up by more than 4 touchdowns, go ahead and bench DJ Lagway for me. Moving on. South Carolina, they got a transfer running back. He's active. He's going to play versus Virginia Tech. Best part about South Carolina right now is Lanoris Sellers. I really can't talk much about anything else about the team because you lost some defensive superstars last year, so you don't know how they're going to turn out. South Carolina, right now, they're a big question mark. But I like South Carolina. I like their quarterback. I don't know about the entire team. And their schedule's not pretty either. So it's going to be rough if you're a Gamecock this year. But have faith because you have Lanoris Sellers. So there's some news last week that came out about Alabama, and they didn't play last week. So it's kind of interesting. I'm bringing this up in an update right now. Alabama is going to... Jam Miller won't play until week 5 against Georgia. And the reason why that is so good is because they're going to play not so good competition the first 3 weeks of the season. It's not like you play Texas or Michigan in those first 3 weeks. Alabama's playing some, teams in close proximity, some FCS, some FBS. They're going to beat them up, basically. So you're not going to need your running back much for those games, although it would help Ty Simpson to have an established running game before the biggest game of the year up to that point for Alabama. But, you're going to need your running back against Georgia. So first 3 weeks, you play FCS, FBS schools. Then week 4 is a bye week, which is much needed in my opinion because that's a big time recovery week, especially for a lot of those players. And in college, you get 2 of them. So this is a big time recovery week early in the year after you're running all over the field, posing after you put 70 points up on, just because of proximity, let's say Georgia State. It's an FBS school. So that, getting them back before the SEC game is good. Only problem is I just contradicted myself just a second ago. They play Florida State week 1. Alabama plays Florida State week 1. Dang, I just contradicted myself. Might need your running back in week 1. You're probably going to need to run the football a little bit. But after that, you really don't need him. But yeah. Okay, so Alabama is going to miss their, I believe, right guard it is, Jaden Roberts. So they could go Gino Vandemark, or Cam Dewberry. But either way, that's something Florida State has to take advantage of. You have to learn these kind of things, which is why you always keep your eyes on the news, You drift away, okay, let me get back locked on to it, because this is the big time news. It's coming out. You're going to miss, if you're Alabama, you're missing your guard. That's huge. So you're going to need him. That's for sure. You're going to need your right guard. Especially when you're on the road. At least it's not under the lights. If it was under the lights, that'd be a big time issue. But it's not. So I think they'll be fine. Up next, some college football predictions. Right here, right now. So let's get in. Okay, so I took like a little break or whatever from recording just to get like a drink of water, or maybe, And I look at ESPN, and Micah Parsons was just dealt to the Packers. That, technically I'm right, 1 for 1. I will count that as being accurate, but also being wrong at the same time. I didn't think he would get dealt to the Packers, but he still got dealt. And so I feel like on that front, I was a little bit accurate, because there were some people who thought, Micah Parsons is not getting traded. So I would say 1 for 2 on that prediction. Just where probably I was wrong. I would have traded him to the Rams, but Parsons he get an extension with the Packers, so he's going to be a Packer. If you're a Lions fan, you might want to double team him. God, I can't imagine Micah Parsons in a Packers jersey. That's terrible. Oh my goodness. And I look at the report, it was literally 2 minutes ago. So I got up, walked away, and did stuff for a couple minutes, and I come back, Mike Parsons has been traded. Yeah. So to everybody out there that said Jerry Jones wouldn't trade him, look at you now. Oh my God. 1 for 2 on the predictions, and we're about to get the prediction segment going. I love it. Okay, so here's how the prediction segment is going to work throughout the season. I'm going to list a game. I'm going to give you a couple of numbers, and I'm going to pick the game, the winner of the game, and whether, my prediction on these numbers. So, first game is Nebraska at Cincinnati tonight in Kansas City. The media's going to go crazy. Dylan Raiola, who a lot of people say looked like Patrick Mahomes. They call him the Patrick Mahomes kid, or Mahomes. What did it say? Basically, the guy looks like Mahomes. Mini Mahomes is what they called him. He is playing in Kansas City tonight. He's the designated road team. This game kicks off at 9. I was surprised when I saw that. But Nebraska's favored to win by 6.5. They take on Cincinnati. Interesting game. I'm going to take Nebraska, the Cornhuskers. I'm also going to take them to cover the spread. I like Nebraska offensively, defensively, and also trust Matt Rule. If you watch the Top 25 episode, I mentioned how much I like Nebraska, how much I like that team, how good I think that team is. I like the Cornhuskers to beat the Bearcats. Nothing against Cincinnati, but I don't know what their defense looks like. I do know a lot about Nebraska. I've read and watched a lot of Nebraska football this offseason, so I trust in Matt Rule and the Cornhuskers. Up next, Friday night is Western Michigan at Michigan State. Michigan State's favored by 21.5 points. I think Michigan State, they're supposed to be better this year. Nick Marsh, Aiden Childs, those two players are supposed to take a step forward. So I think Michigan State is going to win and cover these points. Not much else to say in this game. These are like the only two quote unquote cupcake games I'm going to like talk about because, everybody has a cupcake game in weeks 1 and 2. We're here to talk about the actual interesting games. So I cover Michigan State's game because I'm sure there are Spartan fans listening. I'm sure there are Michigan fans listening as well. So I covered those two just for them, just for the Michigan and State fans out there. I will cover those games, but traditionally I'm going to cover the best games of the week no matter what. Obviously, I'm going to, when it comes to the NFL, I'm going to talk Lions. So on those two fronts, get that going through. So next game is Auburn at Baylor. Auburn's supposed to be favored by a field goal, basically. I like Baylor. I think the resurgence of this team looks very good. Obviously, the biggest issue with me is defense, but also Auburn, on the Auburn side of things, Baylor's defense is what worries me. But on the Auburn side of things, I think the offensive line, I think what your quarterback looks like, that's going to have a huge impact on this game. And so things are going to look very different if you're Auburn. Nothing that's really like concerning, in my opinion. But, this is a game where Auburn's favored by 2.5 on the road at night. I don't know. I don't like it. I'm going to take Baylor. So Georgia Tech at Colorado. Georgia Tech's favored by 5. I'm going to take Georgia Tech to win the game. Colorado plus the 4.5. Why I take Georgia Tech but not them to cover, I think it's pretty simple. This is going to be, in my opinion, this is going to be a high-scoring game. These two teams did not play good defense last year, outside of maybe Travis Hunter with his 3 interceptions. These two teams didn't play good defense last year. And granted, this is a new year, but I don't think that there will be much defense played in this game. High-scoring game, 42-45 type thing. I like Georgia Tech to win the game. Colorado and the points. I like that prediction. Texas at Ohio State. I like Texas. I don't understand how Texas is a 2-point dog on the road. They are the number 1 team in the country, yet you have them as an underdog. I don't get it. I don't understand, why they're this low or why they're favored by this, why Ohio State's favored this much. I can tell you one thing, pass rush isn't there. It's not. Secondary could be very good, but the linebacker core is not as good as it was last year. Pass rush isn't as good. And so when you give a guy like Arch Manning plenty of time to throw, plenty of time to move around, I think that could cause some major problems for Ohio State. Of course, I'm biased. I'm a Michigan fan, so I could be wrong here. This is just my opinion, obviously. But I like Texas over Ohio State. I just don't understand how the number 1 team in the country isn't favored in their first game of the season. That's got to be like, when was the last time the number 1 team in the country wasn't favored? Because that's crazy in my opinion. Syracuse at Tennessee. Tennessee is favored by 2 touchdowns. I'm going to take Tennessee to win the game, but Syracuse and the points. Why Syracuse to cover? Well, I think Syracuse can play some good defense. So the offense, this could be a blowout for all I know. I don't know. But I don't like the 14 that they're giving to Tennessee. I like to see the offense. Defense, we know Tennessee's defense is going to be pretty good this year, but the offense is going to be the question mark in this game. Up next, I got Alabama, Florida State. I'm going to take Alabama by the 2 touchdowns. Pretty easy prediction, in my opinion. Florida State, I think that they're going to play good offense. Good defense is a interesting question, in my opinion. Obviously, Alabama, like we mentioned before, they're going to be missing their guard. Running back is is going to go down to they're without Jam Miller for the game. I don't have the depth chart in front of me, so I don't know who's going to be backing him up or who's going to be starting in that game. But I like Alabama to win this game by more than 2 touchdowns. I just, when season openers, when it comes to Alabama, they tend to beat teams up pretty bad. I think remember the Texas game, week 2 that game was, but week 1 they dominated in that game. Last year they did the same thing. Also, biggest question in my opinion for Alabama, what does Ty Simpson looks like? The defense, experienced, a ton of veterans on that defense, but what is the quarterback position look like? Who can get the ball to Bernard and Williams? Those guys. I like Alabama by 2 touchdowns. LSU and Clemson. Clemson's favored by 5. I'm going to take Clemson to win by a touchdown. LSU's defense is really good. And that's the only thing that makes me second guess myself when I talk about this game, because LSU's defense is really good. But I like Clemson in this game. It's been a while since a team's gone to Death Valley under the lights and has given Clemson some problems. I think LSU could be that team. But Brian Kelly has not won a season opener since he's gotten to LSU. Could this be the year that changes, though? This probably could be the year, yes. But the chances of that, in my opinion, are very, very slim. I like Clemson a lot. And the fact that they're favored in their first game of the year tells you something. And it tells me that they're most likely going to be favored in every single game this year. And they're in the top 4, but they're most likely going to be favored in every single game this year. I don't think Texas can say that. Probably because they're in the SEC, but also because you're not favored in your first game. So I'm going to give this to Clemson. New Mexico at Michigan. I'm going to take Michigan, but New Mexico and the points. Why? Because Michigan's favored by 35. You think that they can't put up 35 on New Mexico? The problem with Michigan, in my opinion, is not the ground game, which I mentioned earlier. I have some questions about, but it's the quarterback, because I don't know how good Bryce Underwood is going to be in his first game. Now, he could prove me wrong and he could show me something, but I don't know how good the guy is yet. I have seen his higher talent in high school, but the talent is just a different level in college. And New Mexico might not be a good enough team, but I can definitely see this game playing out 35-14. Although I have hyped up Michigan's defense and their offensive line a lot this offseason, I still think New Mexico in the points. This could very well be 35-10 or 35-14, like I said. So I don't know. I don't think Michigan wins by 35 points under the lights with a new quarterback in the building and an experienced one at that. This would be good for him to get some playing time under his belt, but that's too many points in my opinion. Next game up is Utah. The Ute at UCLA. Nico Iamaleava in his debut. I will say this all year, if I have to pick a UCLA game all year, this defense is nowhere near as good as their offense. I'm going Utah with the touchdown without a question. Utah all day. UCLA, this game is basically a Pac-12 after dark without it being a Pac-12 game. But Utah, in my opinion, they've got the better head coach, the more experienced team, more experienced head coach, like I said. I just like Utah more in this game. So I'm going to go with the Utes. Last prediction on today's show. We have Notre Dame taking on Miami, and I'm going to go ahead and pick Notre Dame. Biggest reason why is because I don't know what Miami's defense is going to look like. They have one of the worst defenses in the league last year. They clean house on the defensive coordinator staff. So they have a ton of new defensive coordinators except for the one coach. Defense is supposed to be completely different, but I need to see that defense out of Miami And with Notre Dame, they have a freshman at quarterback. Jaden Greathouse is really good. So the offense, in my opinion, might be one of the best in the country. The defense is also really good, and I like Notre Dame's defense. So I'm going to take Notre Dame over Miami, but Miami, the defense, this is your toughest game of the year. You're going to have to show me something. And there's potential for Miami to go out there and win. This is the first tough game on a schedule that's loaded for Miami this year. It's not a non-winnable game. It's just this is tough. And, with your defense, which was one of the worst in college football last year, and your offense, which couldn't really run the ball last year, you couldn't really, late in the year, you really struggled throwing it. I want to see how this team looks. And I'm excited for Carson Beck. New spot, new opportunity for Carson Beck. So, I'm excited to see that at least. Can't speak for everyone, but I'm excited to see, Carson Beck kind of go out there and do his thing. But I got Notre Dame winning the game. They're going to cover the 3. And yeah, so thank you so much for listening. If you made it to the end, I appreciate you. Don't forget to leave a comment, like, and subscribe. And I feel like today was a great episode. I always enjoy doing the show. I hope you enjoy listening to it. Don't forget to tune into the next episode of The Jackson Show. And as always, bring a friend.